That was like, who's the MVP? Drake May. For the other team.
Right.
That's what I was joking about.
I think time to move on from Will Campbell. That's my.
They just drafted. He's a rookie this year.
Yeah,
It was
but
a train wreck.
when the guy's getting pushed into the quarterback
I'll give
on
you
half
no.
the plays,
They're going to move him to left guard, and they're going to pick
And
up
then
a new
he'd be
left
fine.
tackle.
I
Yeah.
would so.
they got to hire a veteran left tackle and the whole situation.
I don't know. I don't follow
He
it.
gave up 14 pressures.
But I mean, I can watch a game and I'm like,
Yeah.
I could have made that field goal.
Exactly. Yeah. No, they're going to move him to left guard.
I can
Yeah.
kick it with a boot, you know.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. They,
No,
will.
and
They
maybe
have. They should. But,
Maybe a few years he can
but
be good enough to step into that role, but it's not right now. It's funny, before the game started, I said, our biggest problem tonight's going to be Will Campbell. And then, like, 2 plays in, I was like, I guess I called that.
Turn my sounds off.
there's a lot less filled than it's been in the past couple meetings.
It's kind of nice, right?
Yeah. A little rocket today.
What we got for? Hey, it's 5 o'clock. Let's call the meeting to order.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Don't have any meeting minutes?
We do not have any meeting minutes.
I won't make any motions.
Notice this,
Is that
my pop filter's all messed up. Okay. So no meeting minutes. We'll get into announcements. We're going to try something a little different tonight. I'm projecting for those joining us on Zoom or online, the agenda will give us a little visual to go along with the evening. So little experiment. We'll see if it works. If anybody online has feedback on it, feel free to send it along. So announcements. The board's going to meet on the following dates at 5 p.m. Monday, February 23rd, Monday, March 9th, and Monday, March 23rd. Some important dates to remember. Tuesday, March 10th is going to be town elections, which will be located at Plymouth Elementary School. The polls will be open from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Then that will be followed by town meeting on Wednesday, March 11th at 7 p.m., also at Plymouth Elementary School. Town offices will be closed on Monday, February 16th in observance of Washington's birthday. And as always, citizens wishing to be listed on the Select Board's agenda should notify Town Hall the Thursday before the scheduled meeting. And all meetings are held here in Town Hall and by Zoom. That Zoom information can be found on the town's website at plymouthnh.gov. So let's jump into the town manager's report.
Sure. Thank you, Zach. Welfare report for January 2026. During the month of January, Mary Ann had 24 consultations with individuals seeking assistance. The cases continue to range from assistance with adult and elderly services, rent, homelessness, fuel assistance, electricity, and housing. The cases continue to become more complex in nature as we navigate the welfare guidelines. The cases have dropped from 38 in December. Thank you, Mary Ann, for exceptional service and helping those in need. Grant training. At our March 17th department head meeting, we will provide grant training. The training will include strategic grant management, the big picture, strategic alignment, so our departments are not chasing the money, they're chasing the mission. We will explain that every grant must align with the town's master plan or capital improvement plan. We will end the meeting by asking each department head, what is one project on your wish list for 26, 27, 27, 28 that we haven't found a funding source for yet? Additionally, all aspects of grant writing, the grant writing process will be included in the presentation. Plymouth State University Police. Plymouth State University Police have disbanded their force as of February 1st, 2026. Chief Buffington and I have been meeting with PSU administration and PSU Police Chief Stephen LaFave with regards to taking over the police services on campus. We have an agreement, and we'll continue to meet and work on the details of operations and logistics. There will be a public hearing on Monday, February 23rd, in order to accept funds from the university for that purpose. Highway Department's winter snow removal policy 2526, with winter upon us, especially tomorrow night. And if you have questions about town roads, streets, or sidewalk snow removal, please refer to the town website at the following link, Highway Department, to view the winter snow removal policy. Meet the Candidates Night 2026. Meet your local candidates on Wednesday, February 18th at 6:30 p.m. at Pease Public Library. Pemmy Baker TV will broadcast the session online, and a link will be available at the town website and on YouTube. As soon as candidates are finalized, which they have, an updated version of the event description will be published. Zach covered the important dates to remember. Additional items, my February town manager's message is up, and as always, our strategic priorities are on the website as well. In closing, the best way to stay informed and engage is to join us at a public meeting. And just additional information, checking in with the tax collector, 92% of the taxes have been paid as of last Thursday. That concludes my report.
Any questions for Scott from the board? All right, well, we have a series of public hearings, but they are spaced out.
We do have our purchase order.
Do we want to jump into that purchase order?
Sure. This is the only thing in the signature file tonight.
Awesome.
And Dan, would you join us?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we're reviewing a purchase order for a new, well, PBTV equipment, more generically. You can give us the full rundown.
Yeah, so this is for a new television server in our location at Pease Public Library. Our current server is over 10 years old, or is 10 years old this year, bought in 2016, so it has well exceeded its life's use. We've had to rebuild it a couple of times over that 10-year. It's been on the CIP, so it is planned. We went and looked at 3 competitive companies that specifically work with PEG channels, public education and government channels is what Pemmy Baker TV is. We looked at continuing with Castus. They had the lowest bid, but it's older technology still, even with their newer systems, and it requires a lot of work behind the scenes to keep our channels updated, and would be continuing the same steps going forward, which kind of limits what we can do as a public television station in our staffing abilities right now. Tightrope is the highest bidder that came in, and we didn't want to go with them. They offer a lot of great products, but it's multiple components that have to work together, which would limit our ability in our production room right now where it is. And it's just a lot of logistics that if one thing goes down, could escalate and cause a lot of issues and keep us off air for a longer period of time, which I wanted to avoid. Spoke extensively with Telview. We are partially partnered with them. We are with the NHCCM, New Hampshire Coalition of Community Media. We used to, as a coalition, have a shared network with Telview in their online database. We still have a partnership with that, so a lot of our content that's not original to PBTV comes from Telview already and other essentially sister stations around New Hampshire and around the country that have any sort of specifics to our region. What's great about Telview is that they are leading the way, Jason, do you mind? Leading the way in automation. So this would allow us to automate our scheduling on a daily and weekly basis of what people see at home. No longer would we need to download from their server, upload to our server, then schedule it manually every single day for all of our traditional shows that we have on there. This would be completely automated, saving us hours a day and tens of hours a week in office work, allowing us to focus on our community more with our staffing and creating more original content. So that's why I went with Telview, which came in under just under our $35,000 that were approved for at town meeting last year for this server upgrade per the CIP. With the way it's funded, we have to move a little bit of money from our reserve, our capital reserve fund, but everything comes in as approved. And I'm happy to take any questions.
How long do we expect this to last?
10 years again.
10
Yep.
years again.
Industry standard 10 years.
Do you have any idea what the lead time is on the equipment?
Lead time, it'll be here in the next week and a half and ready for install during school vacation week. I specifically asked for that for my circumstances.
And you think we can get all cut over to all the new equipment, to all the new server, everything in that week?
Yep, well, it'll be a one-day transfer. They come in, it's not third-party vendor like the other two were with Castus and Tightrope through Key Code Media, what used to be Access AV out of Concord. They come in as Telview, they install it, they migrate everything over, they test and make sure every system works before we're essentially handed the keys to the server.
Excellent.
I like that.
Yeah.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the order from Telview Corporation for the PBTV equipment / server for the amount of $34,793.00.
Can you just add one piece to that motion of taking the $7,125.98 from the trustees of the trust fund in order to make the full payment of that?
Amended as Scott stated.
Second.
Because I'm not going to remember that.
No. It's on the purchase order, though. Any other discussion or comment from the board? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And Zach, do you have the application for payment from the trust with that document as well?
Second page.
Yes. Okay. I do. I'll hand both of those to you, Ted. Two signatures, pretty straightforward.
Awesome. Thank you all.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Dan.
Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
Pass it that way. That was easy.
That's an easy one. And you said, Scott, there's nothing else in the signature file without Ann here.
That was it.
Perfect.
The first one only needs 2? Or do we else? I'll make room.
Usually we all sign.
You just squeeze your name in there somewhere.
Of course, I have to put it on top.
Yeah. If we ever get those carbon forms reprinted, I assume we're still working off of old layout that was when there was a 3-member board instead of a 5-member board.
Yeah, we still have about 6 boxes of those.
Gosh.
So we're not
So,
out anytime soon.
another 10 years or so, we can add some more lines.
You get a bulk disc rate on that many boxes?
All right. Well, we have another 3 minutes. Let's hit a couple committee reports. Why not? Village Water and Sewer, Jason.
We meet tomorrow.
It's tomorrow. And
I could skip to.
say, let's skip to school if you've got school.
I could skip to Conservation Commission. It meets next Tuesday at 7.
Next Tuesday.
Any others that are quick like that?
Energy Commission meets this Thursday.
Thursday.
Mary Ann's not here for Chamber of Commerce.
I can actually make planning board really quick.
Okay.
They met.
Surprising.
They met last week, or they met on Monday.
Yeah.
No, Friday.
Thursday.
Thursday.
They
They
met
met on
Thursday.
Thursday. I don't have any notes.
Since you were here
I will-
instead of across the hall?
Yes, I will provide an update at the next meeting. I'll watch the minutes.
Okay, sounds good. And then similarly, Capital Improvement Committee won't meet again until summer. An advisory budget committee did meet prior to our Thursday meeting last week, but any of that update sort of came out of in the Thursday meeting. So nothing really to say about advisory budget either.
No union negotiations, that's all done.
Yep, mark that one off.
Economic development hasn't met. We'll meet later on this month.
Later this month. Same with the Police and Fire Building Assessment Committee has not met, but we will have we have a hearing on the 23rd, is that correct?
We do.
So we'll have a hearing related to that on the 23rd. We had one gentleman who came in tonight and said, "Are you talking about the fire and building?" And I was like, "Nope, the 23rd." And so he was like, "Well, I'm not going to bother you." So
So, as we discussed last week, I did sign a letter of intent that was approved by Attorney Warren, which is a non-binding based on the escape clause if it doesn't pass at town meeting as a warrant article.
perfect. All right, well, that covered a little over half of our committee updates in the time that we had. And so now let's jump to our 5:15 public hearing. So we're having a public hearing this evening on a taxi cab ordinance. We discussing some proposed amendments to that, and I think we have those in front of us. Scott, are you going to speak to that?
Yes, yes. So going through all of our ordinances and policies, this was one that hadn't been updated since 1996, and the language in it is very old and outdated. And we do have a taxi cab company in Plymouth located out on Mayhew Turnpike, so we wanted to make sure that it was up to date. Really, the only things that have changed in here is we broke it out into sections, such as requirements for business and vehicle permits, the vehicle standards and markings, driver and operator requirements, operator permit qualifications, and fare and service regulations. And last is penalties and enforcement. The language was updated by Town Council, Attorney Warren. We did update the insurance requirement, as there was never an insurance requirement in the old policy. Now it's $500,000, as well as making sure the town is named as an additional insurer in advance notice of 10 to 30 days of any insurance cancellation. We did insert the fee into the ordinance, which was never there, but it always was $150 for a required license fee for taxi cabs. And the other thing is we removed the 21 years of age to 18 years of age as recommended by Town Council. Those were the changes in the policy. No major operational changes were included.
So it's a cleanup, it's a license fee, and it's an insurance requirement.
Correct.
Scott, would this policy also apply to something like an Uber?
It doesn't. It just applies to taxi cabs.
Yeah, Uber operates a little bit differently.
I figured as much, but I figured I should state it for.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good call out. And we currently have one registered
One.
that each year we review and sign off on.
Correct.
Yep. All right. Any public comment on the change to regulations of taxi cabs? All right. Seeing none, I will bring it back to the board. Any comment from the board?
I guess I have a question, just because I don't know. Why is the town name as additional insured for the insurance policy?
In the event that, as we issue the license for that, we do hold a level of responsibility.
Okay.
So we just want to be named as an additional insurance on their certificate of insurance.
Okay. With the up in air about the safety inspection going on at the state, is that going to have to change with our, as our
It
ordinance?
would, once that has been adopted. It
Okay.
was out, but then when we heard last week or 2 weeks ago that it possibly could continue with the emissions, we put it back in for now, but we can make an amendment to that.
I think I was just curious about that. My interpretation of the language as proposed would imply that a safety inspection is required whether the state requires it or not.
In which we definitely can do that.
And I think that would be fine,
That
honestly.
feels wise.
Yeah.
I mean, once I think it's settled, we can come back in and make an amendment to that and make sure the safety inspections are included.
Yeah,
That's,
I would agree.
that's a good idea.
I think in general, I think it makes sense to require that.
Yeah.
It's still possible that, the state may retain the requirement to have emissions testing to comply with Clean Air Act, but abandon the safety inspection. In that case, I think it would still behoove the town to require safety inspection for cabs.
Yeah.
The only question I have is, we don't really address any standards. I mean, there's currently a standard for New Hampshire state inspections. It doesn't reference that, but I don't, if there's no, if that standard is dropped from the legal requirements, it's kind of up to the discretion of the mechanic at that point as to what standard they use, but I think that's fine.
I agree. All right, with that, it is 5:20. I will close the public hearing, and we can vote on this, I believe. We don't have to have two?
No.
All right, I'll make a motion to accept the amended taxi cab ordinance as outlined in front of us.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, well, it's 5:20. We have another hearing at 5:30, but let's go back and knock out a couple more committee reports.
I don't have anything from Lakes Region Planning Commission, and I don't have anything from PERLAC.
All right. No Mary Ann, so we won't have an update on Parks and Rec, but I don't believe they've met. That leaves just you, Ted.
I
and,
figured as much, and I'm ready for it.
I can provide one brief update on the Energy Commission, which is that there has been some action to prepare a solicitation of bids for work to be done on Town Hall based on the results of the energy audit. And one of the Energy Commission members has been spearheading that. I suspect it will be on the agenda for the meeting on Thursday.
Oh, okay, great.
All right, I was not in attendance of the PES school board meeting on February 2nd because I was here, but I did watch the video and use my handy tools to give me a summary. So they did approve their 3-year teacher contract agreement, was unanimously passed. The principal's report highlighted a thing called a Robo-Rumble event. I'm not 100% sure the details of what that is, but they described the event as fun, well-attended, and represented 9 elementary schools. So it was a well-attended event.
Was this the robotics competition they
At the
had
elementary
school?
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
I know I had a couple friends who judged one of those at the elementary school, so that might have been it.
They did have some information about their winter program adjustments in carnival planning. Due to the weather cancellations, they missed some of their opportunities, and so they're rescheduling some of them that they can, especially for the grades K through 5. And the middle school has already got its own programming calendar and will continue that with separate plans. The principal highlighted the dedication and excellence of the PES staff. During the privilege of the floor, there was a question raised about a policy or guidelines for working with ICE, and the administration says they don't have a formal protocol in place. However, that they requested that it not disrupt the school day. And the principal and teachers should not engage directly. They should refer them to the SAU office. And Officer Jill should be the particular point of contact. But in the case of an ICE activity, they don't really have a lot of say in the matter. So they're just going to look for others to provide them guidance. They had the discussion on the warrant articles that were discussed later in the evening, which additionally I could not attend. They talked about the tax rate impact details can't be printed directly on their warrant, but they will be included in handouts. So that's the highlights from the elementary school. We still have enough time?
Yeah, I think so.
So the high school, I was able to attend this one. It was a very quick meeting, relatively speaking. They did have a student report, which was very detailed and very quick. I had to rely on AI to even catch half the stuff. The highlights there were students completed the midterms 2 weeks prior, and the start of the second semester is now underway, and they expected report cards later last week. Some highlights from athletics, winter athletics. Girls hockey, first ever season, 3 PRHA students on the team, cooperative team with Kingswood and Prospect. So that sounds like it went well. They talked about basketball, boys 2 through 8 and girls 4 through 7. Both teams playing games during the meeting. Unified basketball completed their season undefeated. And student organizations and honors, NTHS and HS. They sent invitations to new inductees, 19 new NTHS members, and 30 new NHS members. And that ceremony is scheduled for March 5th. Quiz Bowl, completing taping of season 44 for the Granite State Challenge. Team performed extremely well. Results are not yet available because they haven't aired yet. They are already qualified for the national championships in Chicago that are occurring in April. And Special Olympics Penguin Plunge fundraiser, they raised $13,186 so far, and they ranked 6th among NH schools. And I'll step down to the principal's report. So they talked about step-up night for the class of 2030. They are breaking this into 2 separate events, one for the stepping up students and one for the parents, citing the reasons were that they often only have so many staff available, and often the priorities between the 2 populations are competing. So they're going to try this to see how it works. They think that it's going to be a lot easier and will allow them to focus on the activity that each party really wants to see. They detailed a number of curriculum changes. I'm just going to highlight a couple of them. They're going to change world geography from half a credit to a full credit to meet the new state minimum standards. They updated the math sequence enhancements. Astronomy is now prioritized for the freshman year, but must be completed by the end of the sophomore year. They had a number of arts and electives that I'm not going to detail. After that, they talked about they've established what the first day of school will be. It'll be August 31st of 2026. And they project that the last day of school will be June 11th. And that all depends on, snow days and other things that happen. But they have built into the calendar a certain amount of allowance for those. Right now, we have the standards is based on the instructional hours. Mm-hmm. And so not so much days. So they have some play in there too. As long as they meet the instructional hours, they might not have to adjust the end of the school year. They had a number of overnight field trips that they were approving, the DECA State Conference, the All-State Music Festival, and the aforementioned Quiz Bowl National Championship, which will be on April 23rd through 27th. And then they were doing deliberative session preparation that immediately followed. And then 36 out of the 47 local board members have now signed the statewide open enrollment position letter, which is talking about how they feel about that new discussion about allowing anybody to go anywhere at any time kind of deal for schools. Let's see. They had the deliberative session. The moderator, Quentin Blaine, announced that he was stepping down at the end of this after many years of service. So there was a warm thank you from everyone in attendance to that. And that pretty much sums up the school board meeting.
Perfect timing.
Any questions for Ted?
And I finished with a minute to spare.
The minute to spare, that's perfect. Yeah, the open enrollment thing is horrifying. So,
I took advantage of a situation like that in high school, but it was primarily because like 95% of the cost of education came from the state.
yeah,
And it's not the case now.
it's just not the case.
The impact to local schools of this is untenable.
Yeah, it's really scary stuff. Hopefully that gets reconsidered, but we'll see. It's 5:30. Thanks, Ted. That's it for committee reports. We are going to open another public hearing. It's 5:30. The town of Plymouth is proceeding with improvements for Highland Street. As part of the regulated process for this federally funded project, and actually, just put this up on the screen while I'm talking about it, is that the town's holding this public hearing to discuss and updates to that proposed project. And we've got HEB engineers with us this evening, and we're going to review the project status and the updates to that. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to HEB to give us an update.
Sure. It says, okay, now I can share my screen.
Just so everyone knows, this is Jordan Pike from HEB Engineering, who we contracted with to do the engineering for the Highland Street project, which has been going on for some time now. Jordan is the primary engineer involved with this, and then Kevin Russell, an engineer from New Hampshire Department of Transportation, who was not able to be here tonight, has also been actively involved in the project, as well as Steve St. Pierre, our highway superintendent. So without further ado, Jordan, the floor is yours.
All right. Thank you, Scott. And I also have with me here Connor Golden, who's our staff level engineer, and Claudia Dambois, who's our design engineer. And as Scott mentioned, this has kind of been a team collaborative effort working together to advance this project. So we're going to review the status quickly, some of the alternatives that were previously considered, and what the currently proposed action is. So, let's just kind of dock this somewhere else here. There we go. Whoops. So some of the original purpose and need for the project was the sidewalks along Highland Street. In some cases, they're a bit narrow. They're kind of crumbling. The curb isn't well defined. There's some drainage issues there. So overall, the original goal was to do some of the rehab and reconstruction of the sidewalks, and then also try to wrap in as much roadway improvements as feasible with that project. And also look at safety through the corridor and just be sensitive to the known concerns in the area. Looking at the project area, it's this red kind of hatched area in the middle of your screen. We're downtown here at Town Hall. So it is going up the hill to Highland Street and connects into the schools at the intersection of Reservoir Road and Old Ward Bridge Road. So as Scott mentioned, this project has been kicking around for a little while. You know, the town initially put out an RFQ in 2023. There was some initial data gathering, some reports on the project going into 23, and then again into 2024, where we really kind of solidified an alternative, and we've kind of been advancing that through last year. We're still looking at construction starting in 2027, but there could be some tree clearing and other activities this winter/fall. So some of the critical issues, like I said, this really did stem from sidewalk improvements, especially going up the hill here. If you look on the left, you know, the guardrail is very close there. That sidewalk's narrow. From a public works perspective, they're not able to clear that with the machinery they have without falling into the lane. So there's some safety concerns there. And obviously you can see the deterioration in state of the sidewalk. Looking at the intersection, the intersections of Old Ward Bridge Road here, this is coming from the school. It's misaligned with Reservoir Road, which means you kind of got to play that guessing game of who's going to go. If you're making a left, you got to be extra careful there. And you also are dealing with high motor vehicle speeds on Highland Street itself. So that's a concern. And just here's looking at some of the hill and roadway improvements. Here, another thing to mention with some of the pedestrian connectivity, the picture on the left here, as we started getting design this past year, it was discovered that the culvert down below this embankment is failing. There's a rather large void, and pieces of the structure have started to deteriorate and fall into the stream bed there. So that was something we also added into the project as of this past year, and something we kind of did some extra work and evaluation on, and still fit it within the budget that we originally had for the project. And then obviously a major consideration is the school here. I think when we had previous public involvement on this project, there was a lot of concern for both access and safety regarding the intersections to the school. So that's something we advanced this year as well with the project considerations. And part of that initial engineering study that we did about a year ago, when we were here in August of 2024, looked at multiple intersection improvements. Based on that, it was proposed at that time to go forward with a roundabout. And we've been spending the last year or so advancing that roundabout concept. So here's some of these meetings that were held previously at a public level. There's a local concerns meeting, it's called. Its initial listening session to gather information, understand the problems in the corridor, public concerns. We reviewed alternatives about a month later. And then in between then, there was some additional coordination on some of the safety concerns, which wrapped up with a public informational meeting in August of 2024, where we presented the intersection alternatives. So actually looking at those instead of just words on the screen, one of the alternatives that was proposed was a roundabout. It didn't look exactly like this, but this is what the roundabout looks like now after advancing preliminary design. And also was an alternative to realign Old Ward Bridge Road. Again, didn't exactly look like. We refined this a bit in this last phase of design, but these were kind of more or less the two alternatives we had to play with as far as what could work for safety improvements here. Based on the public comment and previous meetings, we did pursue the roundabout as the preferred alternative over the past year. And in that phase, you know, we initially had to get to a point where we developed the design enough to understand the full grading impacts, how much property would need to be acquired, what are some of the drainage implications, permitting implications. So we kind of reviewed that stuff through the first half of 2025. And then on the back half of 2025, we were kind of following up on that coordination from both an environmental standpoint and kind of a public communication standpoint with the properties that were affected. Looking at the roundabout, it required a significant chunk of property from the accounting office on one side of the road, and it also required some trees and property from the property at 150 Highland Street. Based on our coordination with the property owner, it was deemed, and again, we do a lot of environmental coordination too through this phase, it was deemed that this property was actually had historic significance. It wasn't initially in the database, which is called Emmett. So it wasn't initially on our radar when we were planning the project a year ago.
Which property, Jordan?
150 Highland Street. But in doing our due diligence and coordinating with the Cultural Resource Office, they kind of, when we were looking on Street View, she's like, that looks like an old farmhouse. And it sure enough was a hit, and it was eligible for historic significance through that process. In coordinating with that property owner, we provided that owner with the time and the information of the past public involvement, tried to explain why we were out there, why the roundabout was being proposed. And at the end of the day, it was determined that that gentleman wasn't interested in having his property impacted. And based on the sensitivity of the issue, the town determined that they didn't feel comfortable moving forward with an eminent domain process. So we were kind of at a standstill where we could no longer shift the roundabout without impacting the historic property on the other side of the street, or shrink it down anymore where it would still work for trucks and buses the way the intersection needs to work for the school. So once we kind of hit that impasse, we dusted off the realignment alternative. There's still some benefits here. We'll get the intersection better aligned. The throat width is being widened. So now buses can get in and out at the same time without having to stop, 50 feet back and have someone, let them come and go. So there are some operational benefits here. The crossings will be better delineated. We'll shore up the pedestrian crossing a little bit and make that whole area a little bit better. Right now, you're kind of in the road on the corner there. So there are still some of the upgrades and safety improvements at this location. It's just not going to be the same as the roundabout. We've talked to the two properties that are impacted in this scenario, and both seem more agreeable. They were happy to see that their property was less impacted. So at this time, we're looking to move forward with the realignment alternative in favor of, instead of the roundabout alternative, as we move forward with this project. And this is just looking at the intersection. Nothing south of the intersection has changed. We're still looking at the sidewalk improvements that originally drove this project, and as well as many roadway and drainage improvements. Like I said, that head wall is failing, and we can fit that into the scope and budget. As much as we can do, or the town wants to do with the budget we have, we're still gonna do that stuff. It's just the intersection alternative has changed, and it was time to bring that back to the select board just so you guys understood that and see if there was still support to move forward with the project.
One key aspect that, as a resident and as a taxpayer, keeping in mind that all the funds have been raised and appropriated for this project. The money sits in capital reserve right now, waiting for the project to kick off. So there's no additional funds that have to be raised and appropriated to complete this project.
What was the reasoning to not pursue eminent domain for this?
Just the history of the property and the landowner's time in Plymouth.
So the property we're talking about as we're looking at this is
Could you use your mouse to
Yeah, could
kind
you-
of go over?
Yes, it's this property. So if you're turning right into the school coming up the hill, it's the property on the left. It has a lot of acreage. It's an older farm property. It has a history of
but
farming.
if that's the property we're talking, could you go back to the roundabout view? It didn't. I mean, I understand that it's impacting them, but it's nowhere near the house.
Yeah, it's the fact that also we would be removing 3 or 4 trees there that line Old Ward Bridge Road, and the trees, if you going back, because we had like a whole historical and cultural significance of this property, like a study done, and the trees themselves, even though they're technically in the town's right of way, they're significant to the character of the property. Like if you look back at the history of this farmhouse and how they used to house people and do work around here, it's always described as a row of trees along the road there. So that was also deemed significant to the property.
Are we talking about? Wait, just look at it. We're talking about one tree.
About 3 or 4. It's hard to commit to the 4th one. It's on the line. You start disturbing dirt near a tree. It's hard to know if it will survive or not. But
We tried desperately to negotiate with the property owner, in fact, of trying to come up with solutions to keep those trees on the property. One of the solutions was let us cut and mill those trees and create a nice split rail fence along the property for the property owner. But at the end, the property owner was very, very determined that he did not want his property That is in the conservation, historic preservation, I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah, it was, we had multiple meetings with this property owner. We tried to explain the benefits of kind of working with us. I think he potentially could have maybe got some more documentation done. We could have planted new trees, maybe done something that could be carried on with the character of the property. But after multiple meetings and trying to be sensitive to the issue, the property owner kind of just drew a line in the sand that they were not interested at all in any impacts whatsoever on their property, which was too bad because I felt like we had made some progress to that point.
Yeah, when I look at it, I look at this solution and I understand the historical significance. I understand the landowner's concerns, but this is such a substantially better solution
Yeah.
than the second diagram that you've shown that I respect the opinion, but I'm not sure I respect it such that we shouldn't be considering it still.
The cost of the eminent domain taking of the property would be significant. If the town wants to
When
pursue
you say
that,
significant, what do you mean?
could be hundreds of thousands of dollars. Because this gentleman has made it clear to us that he will fight this to the highest level of the court.
So it's
So,
legal fees.
in terms of case law, though, the city of Keene did this exact thing probably a decade ago, where they put a roundabout in, took a piece of land for eminent domain. They were sued for it, and the landowner lost in that case.
Or was it a piece that was in conservation, historic conservation? We had to go through.
See, I understand if we're talking about getting close to the
lady
person's
that-
house, but we're nowhere near that.
Jillian Edelman from the Bureau of Environment.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah,
Those trees could die from being salted. We're talking about trees here. We're not talking about a house. We're not talking about a stone wall. Like there's.
yeah, and I can't speak to the valuation. In fact, I'm not allowed to talk about the value of property, especially until we've completed this, the National Environmental Policy Act criteria. And this is part of satisfying NEPA, the National Environmental Policy Act, is having this coordination and looking at these things. And, we just couldn't really advance the conversation. I thought it was advancing, and then this gentleman had no interest, and at that point we didn't have any more tools to keep going that direction.
I mean, this house wasn't in historical status before the project started, though, correct?
No, it wasn't, which would have been nice if it was in the database before we started digging in more, because we could have had some more coordination earlier.
Yeah.
It was, it was a pretty standard meeting. I thought we were checking a box, and a historian from DOT noticed that the property looked significant and the trees seemed unique. And we had to hire a historian to dig into the property and the history, and there was a report filed that's many pages long about the significance of this property, and the owner wants to maintain that by maintaining every inch of their lot. The historian did explain there are other alternatives, but the gentleman wasn't interested.
What were the alternatives that the historian discussed, if you can?
She said the possibilities were only limited by your imagination. There's been lots of things that I've done on other projects. We do a lot of bridge work. So sometimes historic bridges, almost every old bridge is historic. Maybe you do a presentation or a report filed, something with the local historic society. Could go as far as getting it registered. I mean, it's not free. Under the project, the town still pays for these things. It's part of the mitigation process for the significance of that property. So it's hard to throw a number out there and say it's only going to cost you X dollars. But after even hearing that from the state historian and environmental team, still had no interest and seemed to have drawn a line in the sand.
How much, excuse me. This plan that's on screen right now to realign the intersection, what is the relative cost of that part of the project versus the rest of the sidewalk and road activity?
Yeah, so the road and sidewalk, I should have had those numbers with me. Pretty much, it was almost split. It was about a $2 million project if you include all the construction costs right away and construction inspection. Since this is a federally funded job, it does need to be inspected full-time. The roundabout was about 1.2 of that, and the other roadway improvements were, let's say, like 900,000. We were at like 2.1, 2.2 all day. So it was a little bit more than half going toward the roundabout. Just realigning the intersection is about a $500,000 less. So, we have $450 to either use within the project. Currently the rest of Highland Street was only going to be mill and overlay, which means you just scrape off the top layer of pavement and put it back. The road could use a little bit more work. So the cost savings could go toward maybe doing more of a full depth road repair or something else, or the savings could just be saved to the town if they didn't wish to pursue any additional improvements and just say we'll fix the intersection and we'll pave the road. So
I know $100,000 sounds like a lot of money, but in a $2 million project, it's 5%. I mean, the difference of 5% to do the project right versus not spend the 5% and create a solution that's not as good for the town long-term. Boy, I don't know.
Yeah.
I agree.
It feels really questionable for us to back off the correct answer to this intersection.
Jordan, in your experience, how long would it take in other projects that you've worked on, how long does it take for the eminent domain process to occur?
If you're not, it goes about the same as getting a permanent easement. A lot of it happens at the back end if the owner wants to dispute the value, so that we'll go through a third-party appraiser with the town. They'll say, hey, the trees and the vacant land, which we need, is worth X amount of dollars. And essentially, the owner can get their own appraisal if they choose to get someone to say it's actually worth more. And that can be all sorts of things. It could be the view shed of the property. It could be secondary impacts, whatever their appraisal number is. And essentially that gets kind of taken up in court. But generally, eminent domain is eventually pursued within a timeline that goes generally in line with the other acquisitions. So it doesn't necessarily add more to the project timeline, because if there's a dispute, it gets handled in court kind of after the fact. They're just cut the check for what the original appraisal was, in my past experience.
Can I ask a question? In the realignment, it seems like there would have to be significant property from the northeast corner of the intersection that would have to be given up, and there are significantly more trees on that corner than there would be on the northwest corner. Has that property owner had any indication of willingness or indication of not wanting this?
We met with, the property, which is the accounting office, Connor met with him last week, with Steve as well. That owner seemed happy that there was less impact to their property, as well as the corner here.
Which would be less impact, the realignment or the traffic
Realignment
circle?
alternative, yeah. I'm going to flip back here to the other alternative.
Oh,
You
I
can
see.
see here,
I see. Okay.
that accounting office is hit pretty hard, as well as the neighboring property at 6 Reservoir Road.
Okay.
I don't know if any of these opposed the roundabout idea, but it did seem like they responded positively to knowing that there was less impact to their property in the realignment alternative.
Yeah.
So question, to the property to the left,
The farm or the accounting
farm.
office? Okay. It's not a working farm, but yeah.
yeah, how many square feet of land would we be actually talking about taking?
It was about 274 square feet.
So about,
Plus trees.
Plus the 3 or 4 trees.
Damage to a few trees.
Let's
Yeah,
just say,
well,
let's
I
say
mean-
4 trees, like,
Yeah.
however many trees we'll stipulate to
Sure.
it. But the size of a large room, not even as big as this room.
The trees were a special type of tree, correct?
It was how they're planted in a row.
Yeah.
And that would be valued in the process by the appraiser. They would have to consider the significance of those trees. And then we'd also have to go through some mitigation process. I think we'd have to replant trees, or that would be covered for in the compensation.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's risky to replant trees because they don't survive, and then you didn't follow through on your mitigation efforts. So sometimes it's easier to pay the owner and have them replant them. But that would have to be a process that we kind of navigate through with DOT and their cultural resource team.
For me, that intersection, the alignment is far less of an issue than the traffic flow. Unless there's going to be some form of control with the realignment that's going to expedite traffic flow, I mean, that is far and above. I would say it's not the most dangerous, but it's the biggest impediment to traffic flow in this town.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. I mean, living in this general area, I can't exit or enter my driveway.
There might be more risk and more incidents on
Yeah.
the intersection of Smith Bridge Road and Tenny Mountain Highway. But
From a
I
safety
think
perspective, yes.
this affects more people in a negative way than any intersection in town. I really think it's worth investigating.
The other piece
roundabout.
we really, I think, need to look at is if you look at the sidewalks, which I know in the previous conversations, we've had a lot of conversations about the pedestrian flow, not just the vehicle flow, but the pedestrian flow through this intersection. What we have here in this diagram are relatively short crosswalks that have, those kind of medians that are also sort of a safety potential, right? You have two short crosswalks. And then if you go forward to that next diagram, in particular, that crosswalk along the north side of the street is very long. And we know that when you lengthen a crosswalk like that, you create significant pedestrian risk in that crosswalk. So I feel like this, and honestly, this intersection is like pseudo realigned. It doesn't even feel entirely realigned here. We don't solve that pedestrian problem with this plan. I mean, it's a big investment, but we continue to carry on that pedestrian challenge in this space.
Yeah, and this realignment alternative, it's still slightly skewed. We tried to maximize the benefit while minimizing the impacts, as hearing some of the concerns with impacts of the past alternative. So, we could potentially talk to that property owner again and shift it even a little bit more if they're agreeable to that. But yeah, maybe this, in a way, we kind of overcorrected based on the comments we had from the other property owner at 150.
I'm just not sure we get a lot of benefit if we don't, it's not significantly different. I come out of that road, Reservoir Road, every day, and this doesn't seem like a big change. Not worth $500,000 or whatever.
We're still going to have a person there directing traffic at all, and which means the alignment really doesn't matter.
Right, it doesn't help that situation, yeah. Steve, you have thoughts?
Yes, the only thing is maybe a four-way stop right there. That's the only thing I can think of that would add to that.
And that doesn't expedite things, it just slows everybody down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is why we brought it back to public hearing.
I still think the better solution is to continue Old Ward Bridge down to a roundabout on Tenny Mountain Highway. And then there's no traffic
Yeah.
at this intersection.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think so too.
Although we
Luck
need
on that
much
one.
deeper pockets to make that happen.
yes, that is a very large infrastructure project.
Unless you're willing to fund it, Phil.
There was, at one point, there was federal money earmarked for a project such as that.
All right, the board has had lots of commentary. Any other quick commentary before we open it to the public?
No, I want to hear what the public says.
All right, let's hear from public representatives and folks. Please,
mic,
microphone,
please.
just because we have YouTube and
My name?
transfer. Yeah, name would be fantastic. Thank you.
John Dockery. I live at 188 Highland, which is beyond the project where you are. I'm about 2 blocks up. I understand the property you're talking about very well because I walked my dog over there for the last 4 years. Question, how long is this government money available for?
We have that money secured,
Okay.
guaranteed.
The person who owns that property, I'll be generous and tell you he's in his late 70s. So you're going to lose the money next year. Yeah, you might have a problem, but you might want to consider playing the long game here. That person has not been available in my presence. I've been here 8 years. I never saw him until this spring. And I was wondering what brought him up from Connecticut, because it's not a full-time residence. And now I think I understand why he was up this spring. So considering that, I think the property is like 46 to 68 acres. I've heard different amounts of property involved. It's huge.
It's a very large piece, yeah.
So, I mean, this is a very tiny, small area for him. My question, I think, was just brought up a little earlier. I never understood why there was so much traffic coming in and out of that road twice a day when you have the Tenny Mountain Highway accessing through there. Now, I don't know what's wetlands or what's been done or how much money it's going to cost.
It would need a bridge and it would be a significant infrastructure project to connect that road to Tenny Mountain Highway, but it would be ultimately
And
be a
the
better
DOT
solution.
has been very hesitant about us adding any additional cuts,
Access.
but
I would love to have the
the
DOT
bridge is the
here.
bigger issue, is that you would have to put a bridge in to get over
Over
to
the
Tenny Mountain
Baker.
Highway.
Okay. So that's off the table. When you
Think
go
it's
through there by where the pickleball courts are now in there, I believe there's access to a road. It connects onto Highland Street.
There is emergency access only, that back road.
Okay.
yeah, that goes into that residential, connects into Merrill Street back there.
Right. So I was wondering if that could be somehow upgraded or thought about as consideration to get a situation where you don't have every car that needs to go down and pick up a kid going down that road.
Right.
The other thing I wanted to mention to you too, which I don't know if you've been there at 7 o'clock in the morning, it sounds like you have. When you're going down towards the square, you are due west.
Yeah.
And that sun is right in your eyes. And you got a lot of little kids running around in front of you. So it's something that the engineering team should consider if you haven't been there real early in the morning. I was there a couple of weeks ago and I literally went for the sunglasses.
I go like this, pull the visor down,
Hold the visor down,
And-
look up.
squint, get low.
Drive very
Yeah.
slow.
The other thing I'd love to have some of the DOT people here is why they changed the highway speed on the Tenny Mountain Highway and reduced it so there's like a 5-mile difference between Highland Street and the Tenny Mountain Highway. Seems a little weird that they would do that.
So we asked them to reduce the speed on Tenny Mountain Highway because of our concerns with folks not slowing down, coming into the traffic lights and then leading into Smith Bridge Road. So 2 years ago,
Yeah.
the select board asked the state to reduce the speed on Tenny Mountain Highway by 5 miles per hour to.
Can we reduce the speed on
40 to
Highland Street?
35, Yeah.
The police are having fun anyway. Can we reduce the speed on the on Highland Street then? I mean, it's just makes it so
this
there's a
board
lot more
fully-
traffic on Highland
Yeah,
Street.
for town roads, this board fully controls the speed limits that are posted.
Although isn't Highland technically a state highway because it's the old Route 25?
Is not, we were,
It
used to
is,
be.
it is
used to be.
slower during school hours already, but.
They gave it back to us.
Okay.
That's all I can think of for right now, but you've answered some of my questions, which I thought were pretty obvious that I just didn't understand what was going on because it seems to me like having that one way in and one way out of the school system is insane.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. Other comments? Our esteemed county commissioner.
Katie Hedberg, Emerson Street. I just want to agree that the realignment, at least on the picture I could see, doesn't do much. And to address your question, Merrill Street would be more of a nightmare, and there are no sidewalks, and it would be a huge project to make that safe for the kids. The sporting events, all the teams are on that back exit way.
I don't think you get a school bus down there either.
Many try because they go right by my house. Well, when I walk the dog, GPS sends them up that way, and then they have to turn around. But I just agree that the realignment doesn't do very much. Thank you.
It's Emerson's or Merrill's probably a better pedestrian way now as it is without traffic, because kids can basically walk down the road with no
Absolutely.
traffic.
Absolutely.
Hi, my name's Andrew Cuthbert. I am actually the property owner of, say, 6 Reservoir, and so I would be the one that would be across, like from the street from the 151.
Southeast or southwest?
On the corner on this,
Yeah.
right
Right
there,
in that
where
little,
the mouse-
Okay,
like,
southwest.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And so originally, I wasn't for the roundabout, just because, like I was first wondering, like when you guys did, like, 'cause I remember, like little meters for, like, like measuring, like how many people go by and all that kind of stuff you guys had out, say originally, like say, like with this roundabout, like, are we kind of doing it mainly for, like, the in and out of the school? Because most of the time, there's really no one going by, like where you could pull in and out of.
Yeah, so
I originally wondered, like,
for the 4 times a day when the school's coming in and out on a daily basis, as well as some traffic conditioning on Highland Street in general. We had, in our public hearing, we had a good number of folks come in with concern about how fast people are traveling on Highland, especially down the hill there. So the part of the thought of the roundabout is it creates this natural, hey, you're coming into a residential area, you need to slow down, would sort of calm some of the speeds and traffic. So that was a major concern in this as well, is to sort of not have people barreling through there at the rate of speed that they do on a normal basis.
and so would that change if they're just gonna go in and out of the intersection, like speed away? Because a lot of people,
So
basically right when they get out of,
think-
one of those roads, they come flying right out.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, the engineers
know
could
if
probably
it would-
speak to it more generally, but the understanding is that roundabouts do create a calming in the traffic, and generally people don't accelerate out of a roundabout in quite the same way that they would maybe out of a 4-way stop, or even a no stop in the case of what it is right now.
Yeah, just to give you an idea, so right now the posted speed limit is 30 miles an hour.
Correct,
You
yeah.
guys have that dynamic sign at the bottom of the hill. I think those, in my opinion, those help a little bit.
Yeah,
But a roundabout of this size, it's geometrically designed so that you can only drive through it at about 15 to 20 miles an hour. So you kind of have to slow down coming in. There's some
gonna
raised
be a
features.
flat one? I remember
flat
it was
one?
gonna be like talks where there's gonna be flat, because you have to get the buses over and all those
Yes,
kind of things.
this orange piece in the middle, so there's
Yeah.
kind of 2 circles here. Yeah, that will be what we call a truck apron. It would be,
Like we have downtown here.
yeah, that one's granite stones. It's about an inch or 2 higher than the roadway.
Okay.
And it's meant so the rear wheels of a large tractor trailer can track. But where the cab is still drives on the pavement. It's really just for dragging a trailer across. So it doesn't, if you had landscaping there, it would kind of tear it up. So it's really just a concrete pad for anyone dragging a landscaping trailer or a tractor trailer, because the school does get some deliveries with food and stuff.
Correct, yeah.
So we do need to be able to fit larger trucks in there, and right now the intersection doesn't really work for anyone.
No.
But this is designed to accommodate those larger trucks that the school has.
Okay.
Can you clarify, would the green circle be, again, raised curb like granite there?
Yes, so there'd be another tier of granite in between the orange and green.
Yeah.
And that would be landscaped. Usually it has, slightly domed, maybe some shrubs or something, but we'd have to work with Public Works on something that they felt was easily maintainable, to not create another maintenance headache, as there is a lot of maintenance work with roundabouts. They have a lot of benefits, but it is a little bit extra work for that benefit.
There is an impromptu Plymouth beautification committee that has kind of taken up the mantle of trying to make a more welcoming roundabout, at least at the one on Main Street.
It would be a good spot for the sign to the school as well.
Yep.
Good point.
So going back with like the, amount of people going by, do you guys have like the records of, say, like the largest patterns per se?
Traffic
Just
counts.
because there's a lot of times when, there'll be nobody there. And so I just didn't know if the roundabout was basically there, basically to, cover, the in and out of school, or is supposed to just measure the, like, amount of people in
Yeah,
all.
we have, and actually those signs the speed sign that he mentioned, we actually get traffic data off of that too.
Yeah,
So we know
true.
how many cars drive by that sign on a
Yeah.
daily basis.
The-
I don't think we have those numbers handy, but we certainly could easily pull them.
The nice thing about a roundabout is, when there's very little traffic, you do have to slow down and go around the circle, but as opposed to a four-way stop where you would have to come to a stop regardless and go, that there is still some efficiency to a roundabout, for that low to medium traffic volume, right?
I think a roundabout too would also help with some of the line of sight issues at that intersection.
It would.
There's because I come off a Reservoir Road,
Yeah.
and sometimes I can't see left down Highland Street. So and then not only just the times of schools, but there's times at evening rush hour that it's hard to get right off of Reservoir Road because
Sure.
of Highland traffic. So I mean, I'm definitely cognizant of you as a property owner at that intersection and not wanting it just to be for one purpose. But I do believe there's multiple reasons why that a roundabout is the most beneficial path forward for that.
There's a bit of land being, popped out of there, though. It's a good,
It's a
because
good chunk. Yeah.
it's like, like the last time I saw was like 30 feet in or whatever, and it was.
Yeah, we have a couple hundred, more than a
we-
couple hundred square feet of impact on your property. I
Yeah,
don't remember
exactly.
offhand, but it's much larger than the other kind of triangle we need from the farm property, I'll call it, at 150.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, I would say, I don't remember the number exactly off my head, but I think you're at least like 4 or 5 times that amount.
Yeah, because like us and the other guys across, we were definitely, happy to hear that it was maybe gonna be a little bit smaller of an impact. I mean, especially with the ones that are across the other way, because they were losing, that end, like all that woods that was in that section, so.
Yeah, we would have to work with you offline to talk about
Yeah,
those
true.
impacts and see if there was something that,
True.
and same with anyone else, if we pursued this. If we do, and I just want people to know that there are schedule impacts if we go back to the roundabout at this point, because we did spend some time talking about it, and if we have to go through that mitigation process, which wasn't initially planned for, I don't think we're gonna get to we're not gonna have the full construction season in 2027, and DOT would have to probably be agreeable to punting this another year with their budgets and stuff, so we'd have to follow back up with Kevin, because I don't think we could get through the mitigation process and acquire the land in time to meet obligation for September 30th, which is the fiscal year, for federal highways.
Is there a time by which we have to utilize the funding or we lose it?
Not that we're aware of at this time, Phil.
Typically, they may just move you into the next fiscal year, but there's been a lot of stuff going on with DOT and the budget. There were multiple projects taken off the 10-year plan. So,
We're aware.
whatever the outcome of this meeting is, we'd want to make sure we have that coordination with DOT as soon as possible to make sure we understand those impacts.
We have a question from an abutter about the culvert.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, sir.
You-
So this is the I assume this question from, I don't see the full name, but
It's Kristen.
Across from Broadway Street.
yeah, so the one that's just up from Broadway Street, that culvert, what's the status of that culvert? Is it, you mentioned it was sort of failing. Is it failing in a way that it's going to fail imminently, or is it failing in a way that is,
Good for another year.
good for another year?
That's hard to say. There are voids there, and I was gonna maybe pull up my photos that I have of that culvert. I'd have to look at it this spring again to see how big those voids have gotten since last spring. And we can see how fast it's deteriorating there.
So this is kind of almost at the bottom of the hill as if you're headed eastbound on Highland as you're approaching Broadway.
Yes.
And just for the record, it is Kristen Downing de Almeida from 98 Highland Street.
All right, let me share
I
my.
believe her home is the last home on the left before Broadway. So I can understand why she would have concern about that.
For sure, yeah.
All right, let me share my screen again.
We
just
all
so you
pass
guys
over
can
that culvert
see.
pretty regularly.
Yeah, I
so,
mean, I don't
yeah.
think it would affect any particular landowner any more than the general users of the roadway.
All right. Oops, spinning. Hang on, I don't want it to freeze. Make this bigger. So you can see the void here. Behind, this is the end wall of the culvert, so if you're going up the hill, it's to the right, down below the embankment there.
The exit, yeah.
Pretty large void there, and you can see too,
The cracking concrete.
you have some settlement and failure on the bottom here. And that's typically the way these culverts will fail. They fail on from the bottom. So, and you can also kind of see how steep. Here's another look inside that culvert. You can see it's somewhat shifted between where the head wall is. There's a void here between the trajectory of the pipe and the culvert. This whole thing is kind of moved a little bit. There's a few photos here, but generally it's difficult to say when it's going to go. It's not looking great.
And is that, replacing that, is there any relining of that, or is that a full excavation from road surface down to bottom of culvert to replace that?
So the way we were able to get this in the project is we kind of sold it as an immediate need for repair. DOT agreed. Originally, this project was just kind of sidewalk money, and they've kind of allowed the scope to expand and open you up to a bigger bucket of money that allows you to do more with it, which is great for the town. But since this is a repair, they're allowing us to fix it under the town's culvert maintainer permit, so we don't have to go through a whole wetland permitting process. But the agreement is that it would just be what's needed to repair this head wall. So essentially, we'd have to excavate out that material. We would put back in a new head wall, cast in place. We would also probably put some fabric down and stone the area above the head wall heading up to the road, because it's very steep there. And it looks to me like some of the underlying causes are the erosion based on where the water comes from and how it can get at that head wall and cause those voids in between. And then it's kind of just like falling under its own weight, more or less. So that's,
We also have a question from Mary Beth Bentwood, 132 Highland Street. This decision seems to be very short-term focused, with the realignment offering no benefit to the traffic flow. What's the town's long-term vision for this corridor, 10, 20, 30 years out? How does this decision align with that horizon? Yeah, I mean, I think that's what you're hearing the board push on, right? Is that the kind of consolation realignment does not really align with the long-term thinking, I think, of this corridor.
The only situation I can envision in which, a traffic circle is not a better solution is really, literally, if we were to connect Old Ward Ridge to Tenny Mountain Highway, and then, westbound traffic would not come up Highland and down Old Ward Bridge. And, we have a fairly large school district, and, kids are students and parents are traveling from several surrounding towns, and almost every one of them would come in on Tenny Mountain Highway if that were an option. I really do think it's.
But I don't think that's
Not something.
certainly
it's
not in a
this
10-year
something
window.
this- No.
It's not even in the 20-year.
We would be lucky to get it into 20,
No, I-
20-year window.
Right. And I mean, even if we did the traffic circle now, I don't think it would be a detriment if there was a better solution 10 or 15 years out.
And I mean, keeping in mind, this project has been kicking around since 2020.
Right.
And from 2020 to 2022, nothing was accomplished on this project.
I think it's been longer though, hasn't it? It's been on the
2020 is
With
when.
the official start of this project, yeah.
the start of this
probably been
project, but it's been
designed.
on the plan for longer.
Yes.
I mean, the DOT has a 10-year plan, right? It takes
This
a
isn't
while to get
DOT.
there. Oh,
This
no.
wasn't part of DOT.
Oh, really? Just, okay. Interesting.
Thank you, Mary Beth. Any other questions, comments from citizens?
One last question. A lot of work was done on the sidewalk at 150. a couple weeks this fall. There was a lot of construction there, put in a new sidewalk, repaved the road. Why would you do that if you're going to rip the road up? Having just written a very large check for this building.
I think Old Ward Ridge was just repaved, and then it was dug up to do the work on the water system, right?
Yeah.
So it had nothing to do with this project, it was the water
All
system.
water, yeah.
Okay.
All of that work
Thank
that
you.
was done on Highland has been
And that's why,
water and sewer.
you know, you bring up a really good point, but that's why nothing has been done to Highland Street until this full water sewer restoration is complete.
Yeah.
Yep. Our intention was to follow them on this project.
And they fund a portion of that pavement that goes down
Yeah. I've really been looking forward to a structural, the potential development of a roundabout in that area as a resolution to that traffic. It's anybody who's had kids or has tried to travel through there at, school in or school out times, there's a significant impact to traffic in that area.
And I mean, exactly why we brought it back to public hearing tonight. And if
Yeah.
the direction from the board is to move forward with the roundabout and the plan that we had previously, that's the direction we'll take and the direction we'll move.
If a more imminent repair of the culvert is needed, is that something that the town could undertake outside of this process? Is that,
Maybe next year if we raise and appropriate funds for it.
yeah.
Which is sort of in the same time window at that point.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I mean, if the town does that, it reduces the cost of this project, would it not? If we do it ahead of time and fix that one issue, I mean, right now you're planning to cover the cost of that issue in this larger project, but if we just do that ahead of time, it's just gonna reduce the cost of this larger project later.
Correct.
So, I mean, we can still consider addressing that if it becomes necessary, even if, my thinking is I'd like to do further investigation into the traffic circle, even if it means it delays this project by another year.
Yeah, I mean, when we're talking about projects of this scale, a year feels like a long time, but we're not trying to solve a one-year problem. We're trying to solve a long-term problem. Please.
Jeff Hankins, 151 Highland. We're adjacent to the project, but that's not why I'm up here. I'm up here because I'm the guy who stops everybody.
Yes, our
Love
traffic
you, man.
guard.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
If this is
We're trying to put you out of a job.
It's fine. I don't like the realignment. But if the goal is calming the traffic down, and if this gets pushed, could the town consider putting in another flashing speed sign for eastbound traffic on Highland? Because right now, that's the big problem. Is I watch people doing 30, 40, 50 miles an hour, and I try to stop. Someone doing 40 miles an hour, it's hard. So I don't know if we could add an additional sign, the flashing speed sign, especially during the school zone, because everyone I talk to, when I stop folks and I say, this is a school zone, they're oblivious, just oblivious. They don't realize that it's 20 miles an hour instead of 30. But if there was some way that we could let people know, that would be fantastic.
That's a cheap fix for safety.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
I mean, I would think just better signage of the school zone speed limits would be an inexpensive solution.
Great, thanks.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you for what you do.
Thanks,
Yes.
Jeff.
We do appreciate what you do, even if we're trying to put you out of a job.
All right, anything else from the public? If not, I will close the public hearing, 6:22. Board feelings?
I think we're all on occurrence that the roundabout is the way to go.
Still
and
like
it's-
the roundabout.
And it seems like
Yeah.
many of the
It's,
public feel that way.
It is awkward for some individual people in town, and I definitely respect the sensitivity, especially for, folks in the audience in particular, right? I know it is significant, but it feels like the right answer for the town.
I agree.
Yes. Do we need to make a
That
motion
sounds
on
like a
that?
consensus.
We have a meeting scheduled and we will start pursuing that process.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for coming.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Well, we have one more public hearing this evening, if anybody wants to hang around for that in particular.
When is that?
Thursday morning.
Okay,
I will
okay. Thank you, Jordan.
I'll follow up with you tomorrow.
All right.
Thank you.
I will open a third public hearing of the evening. Plymouth Select Board is holding a public hearing in accordance with RSA 3195B for the acceptance of unanticipated grant funding from Northern Border Regional Commission in the amount of $28,702.57. These funds will be utilized for the purpose of conducting a feasibility study for energy-efficient downtown lighting and wayfinding improvements along Main Street. The cost of the project is estimated at $57,405.14, meaning this grant is a 50% match to the total project. The Select Board will be requested to utilize capital reserve funds from the infrastructure projects and grants established for this purpose. The amount to come from the capital reserve will be up to the $28,702.57 match, depending on the final cost of the project. So, Scott, do you want to introduce this?
Absolutely. So, back a few months ago, Joseph Perez, our Director of Economic Development and Planning, put together a grant and submitted it to Northern Borders for the purpose of a lighting feasibility on the Main Street and wayfinding for better location of services and directions. As we all know how terrible our lighting is on the Main Street area, specifically in crosswalks and every other place, we felt this was a very good project to take under. And we were successful with the grant opportunity and did receive $28,702.57 from the Northern Border Regional Commission for the purpose of this. And as the second paragraph states, we do have the 50% matching funding in capital reserve, which is established for that purpose. So what we would like is to move forward with this. We have gotten the approval, just had to go to public hearing prior to us accepting the funds through the grant with the Northern Border Regional Commission.
Any questions from the board about this? Big thank you to Joseph for his hard work.
Joseph did a great job on this, he and Avery.
Yeah.
And definitely, to your point, critical to get better lighting, especially around those crosswalks. I can't tell you how many times I come up on those crosswalks and just can't see that there's someone coming across. It's a little bit terrifying.
I agree.
So, public comment. See smiles and nods from the audience. Anybody online? Looks like we're down to just Dan and Kristen online.
If I can make one general comment, I would like to commend Scott for, in your town manager's report, you mentioned all town or department heads will be going through a grant training. I think this is a great example of what can come out of those types of trainings, and I think that, anything we can do to help offset the cost. There's a lot of grant funding out there, and it takes a little bit of legwork to figure out what it is and how we can use it, but I think it's a great asset to the community anytime we can find matching grant funds of any type. So thank you.
And I think,
thanks to Joseph for doing this.
yes, and I think, we've heard through the meetings last week that, pocketbooks are tight, and what else can we do
Yeah.
as the town to try to help that pressure, that feeling that community members have and taxpayers have. And I think this is one way, as long as we have a focused mission on what we're going after money for.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If I recall correctly, we had, one of the first meetings I attended, we had voted not to replace 3 light fixtures.
Yes.
And it was about the same cost as our grant fund for this. So the money we saved on not replacing 3 light fixtures at the time could pay for our town match on this.
Microphone, please.
Microphone, please. Thanks, John.
Something for your consideration when you consider this is I think of where I almost kill pedestrians driving in downtown Plymouth. two places. The crosswalk right out in front of the UPS store, where they come literally, there's parking right there, so they're coming out from behind a parked car. And the other place is on the other end, by where the statues are in the park, going to the post office. Those are my two favorite, jam on the brakes moments in Plymouth. What about some kind of thing where it's like a raised platform, plastic platform? I know it'd be trouble with the snow plows, but with actually lights, if there's anybody in those crosswalks or coming to those crosswalks, could that be incorporated into this, or are we adding a whole new level of complexity and cost?
Well, it can't be incorporated into it, and I will tell you, the battle is hard. We have fought with New Hampshire DOT because they own that roadway,
Oh, okay.
and they dictate to us where the crosswalks will be and how they will be stipulated.
Okay.
During the downtown drainage project, we tried to change a lot of that,
Mm-hmm.
and unfortunately, we were not successful with New Hampshire DOT in their engineering division.
Well, I'll just keep my brakes in good repair, and the pedestrians will have to take their chances.
I've had the same reaction, and I'm kind of curious why DOT would give us such a hard time, because when Concord redesigned their main street, I don't know if you're familiar, but rather than having straight curbs down the side of the road, wherever there's a crosswalk, there's kind of an island of sidewalk that comes out to flush to where the parked cars are, so that people, before you depart the sidewalk, you're basically visible past any parked cars. It does make it harder to clear snow, but I had somebody step out from behind a parked car without really realizing that there was somebody coming, and it was a mother and child, and I was hard on the brakes. It's really scary.
Yeah.
I will tell you, in the downtown drainage project and the complexities of that, if we had moved any of the sidewalks, they were holding back $82,000 in funding that would have covered the paving
Wow.
of that area.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
So what do you do at that point,
Right.
We proceed.
Right.
right?
Yeah.
As
All right, any
always.
other public comments? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing at 6:30 PM.
Do you need a motion to accept the funds?
Sure do.
Go ahead.
I-
I'll make a motion to accept the funds in the amount of $28,702.57 from Northern Borders for the purposes of conducting the feasibility study for downtown lighting.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Fantastic. All right, we already did our committee reports, which is lovely. So it takes us straight to any public comments that anybody has about anything that they so desire to bring up to this board.
I would like to comment that I very much appreciate the public comment that we received tonight. And I would like
It
to
was great
encourage the
tonight.
public to attend and share their comments on a regular basis.
Both online and in person was
Yes.
was very, very participatory this evening.
I
And
agree.
it's,
We do have a non-public.
I was going to make that motion.
somebody's car alarm's
Okay.
going off.
Hope it's not mine.
Hope it's not mine.
I don't think it's mine.
Nothing else, I'll make a motion to go into non-public according to RSA 91-A:3, number 2, D, real estate.
Sean, you want to come up to this table? With us tonight is Sean Doherty, the Executive Director of the Bridge House. And Sean is here to
Let's make sure we're offline.
discuss a pilot agreement.
Is that voted and approved to go non-public?
Oh, yeah,
I'll second it.
Phil's going to abstain. Jason, your vote.
Aye.
Zach, aye.
Aye.
Here we go, we have 3. Yes, it's now been voted, Dan, thank you.